On today's show, what if the Mavericks get the number 3 pick in the NBA draft? What should they do with it? We'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. If you listen every day, you're part of the Raccoon Squad. You're an everydayer. We appreciate you. Subscribe or follow for free wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show there is to listen every day, comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section, what should the Mavs do if they get the number 3 pick in the draft? You're the Mavericks. What would you do with it? A championship team is all about being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for the parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available in U.S. customers. Eligible items apply. Exclusions apply. If you want to support the show, text us. Get text alerts from us. Participate in our Friday subtext mailbag. Go ahead and subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below. Text the number on the screen. Appreciate each and every one of you supporting the show, going that extra mile. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor, Mavs.com. The bird hat homie, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Oh, we're both wearing bird hats.
We are wearing bird hats today.
I just want to give a shout out to Dylan Brooks. I mean, this guy gets one of the most funniest Shams tweets I've ever seen of not even correct grammar there. But when that came across my phone, I started dying laughing of under zero circumstances.
Quote, the Memphis Grizzlies have informed pending free agent Dylan Brooks that he will not be brought back under any circumstances, league sources say.
For free? Minimum?
Any circumstances. None.
Not a good look for the Dylan Brooks crowd.
We talked about him yesterday on the show, so if you want to check out that show, go listen to that one. We talked about him last week extensively. If you go look on YouTube, he's in the thumbnail there. We talked about risks the Mavericks should take with Gobert or Dylan Brooks, and one of us was for it, and the other one was against it. Go listen to find out which one was which.
I feel like this is all leading to him being a Laker, and just
there's no way. There's no. I mean, there's no way.
Okay.
I poke bears. I make friends with bears. It's like just call me Yogi because I'm friends with the Bears. I'm Boo Boo.
Yogi's up to.
On today's show, we'll talk about what if the Mavs get the number 3 pick in the draft. 3.6% chance. Last week we did number 2 in the draft. The week before that, what if they get number 1 and get Victor Wembanyama? Wild chance. So this is all leading up to the NBA draft in a couple weeks, or the NBA draft lottery in a couple weeks. And so today we're going to get to number 3. Should they trade it? We've got some trade ideas for you. See if you guys are interested in any of those. We'll talk about what we think they should do with it. But let's start here. What if they keep the pick? They get the number 3 pick. Draft lottery night comes. I don't know who's representing the Mavericks yet. We don't know this. Michael Finley has done it in the past. So maybe him. Maybe Nico Harrison's like, hey, I haven't done this before. Maybe I'll do it.
I'm going to tell you who it's not going to be. Luka.
Or Christian Wood.
That's a very good guess, too.
The
Mavs
unless Mavs
over 20 posts.
Unless Mavs social media gets any control of who's going to the lottery. But the Mavs send somebody, maybe it's Dirk. Maybe Dirk is gone from the Philippines and comes back and ends up going to the lottery. And all of a sudden they're in the top 4. They make it past the commercial. That's like you made it into the top part of the lottery. We see that at the number 10 spot, the Mavericks aren't there as they're counting up. Mavericks
freaking out.
Yeah, we're freaking out. Maverick, we should maybe go live. Actually, we will be live on Locked On NBA, so I'll be there, and you can join me if you'd like to. And the Mavericks get the number 3 pick, and we find out. What do they do? What would happen if they keep it? Like, what happens to the Mavericks then? Who are they getting?
I think from a drafting perspective, this is the easiest spot because you just take whoever's left over between Scoot.
Besides one.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Let me say less stressful. It's probably less stressful than the first pick because it's the first pick's easier. You take Wemby, but they're still like, oh man, this is it's a little stressful, like
More stressful on coaches, maybe.
yeah, but this one, I think it's pretty simple. If you want to keep the pick and you view Brandon Miller in the same ballpark, same arena as Scoot Henderson, then you just take whoever's left between the two guys, and a lot of it's going to depend on who finishes at 2 in that scenario. That will they need a cornerstone future star point guard to lead their team that they could go with Scoot, or will it be some team that already has a guy like that and they're like, hey, like we like Scoot, but we already kind of have a point guard of the future. We'd rather take a Brandon Miller, and then you're sitting there for Dallas. And if you're drafting, it's simple. You just take whatever guy's left. But if you're entertaining trade offers, you kind of want Scoot to be there because I think Scoot would have more trade value than Brandon Miller.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he would too. The thing about drafting at 2 and drafting at 3, if you're 2, like I start considering Brandon Miller just because the Mavericks want to win right now. They want somebody to come in and try to at least be good right now. Yes, you want to pick for talent, think down the road and all that. But to draft Scoot, you're all of a sudden asking like, okay, now our 3 best players probably, and Luka, Kyrie, and Scoot, all kind of do similar things. They handle the ball, they're good with the ball in their hands, not the best defenders. And so then you're like, okay, but with Brandon Miller, you're bringing in a 3-level scorer, defender, 6'9" wing. Like he can fit into pretty much any team out there, right? Every team needs somebody like him, and is asking and needs more guys that do what he does. Scoot Henderson's a better prospect. A lot of guys have him higher and think that he would absolutely be the number 1 pick. And at the end of the day, I think if you get number 2, you draft Scoot and then you figure out what to do later if you don't get a really good trade package for him. With 3 though, man, I'm thinking about taking Brandon Miller, because then you got this guy that you can absolutely project going forward. Although I don't know if he'll project to help right away, but we've seen guys like Keegan Murray and others be wings and be productive day 1.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument that Keegan Murray was one of the more comfortable guys the other night in that Game 7 with the Warriors.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like Aldi brand, an Aldi Derrick Rose versus Aldi Paul George. As far as these two guys, we're just trying to simplify it here. But if Scoot goes 2, you're setting at 3. Brandon Miller.
We need to learn the Slovenia version of that. Like, what's the Slovenian version of the brand that's like a knockoff of the other brands of things?
Yeah. What's the Dollar General?
Yeah, the Great Value. What's the
but no, I mean, if you're setting there at 3 for Dallas, Brandon Miller's a great fit for you if you want to just go ahead and take Miller and be done with it. The only issue if you land at 3 and Scoot goes 2 is I just don't, kind of going back to what I said a bit ago. I don't think Brandon Miller has the same trade value around the league that that Scoot would have. And right. I'm fascinated to see what kind of trades people would really put on the table to move up for a Brandon Miller, or, the Thompson twins are a lot of fun, but I think Brandon Miller's, still that guy at 3.
It's a great question. What kind of trades could be available? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp is available for you to help you with all the things in life that you deal with, that you struggle with. You just need somebody to talk to walk something through. You've got something with your spouse, or something with your partner, something with your kids, something with a coworker that you're like, I just need somebody else to bounce stuff off of, to just, process something with, and they'll ask the right questions and know that that person has your back and that person isn't trying to have some kind of agenda with you and all that kind of stuff. It's so easy to get caught up on what everyone else needs from you. You never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. If you're starting to think about therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. They can figure out when you need somebody to meet with you, and it'll work. Sometimes I've met with an online counselor in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's been like earlier in the morning. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no charge. They expect you to switch around. So if you're nervous about, hey, what if I don't find the right person right away? They know that you're going to probably change a couple of times, and that's fine. And with BetterHelp, there's no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, supporting the show, keeping us 5 days a week. On tomorrow's show, we'll get into wing targets for the Mavericks and trades, free agency. I'm excited about that one. I've got my many lists going of wings that I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch out there, more than bigs. I was surprised. So we'll do that tomorrow. Let's get into what we're talking about today. What would the Mavericks do with the number 3 pick in the draft? We talked about Brandon Miller. I think he would be a great fit. I don't think that Scoot Henderson will fall to 3. And so that's not really conversation. It's conversation for last week. So they maybe take Brandon Miller. Talked about that option. Let's talk about trades. What trades do you think would be available for the number 3 pick out there?
Some of this is looking at what we've talked about over the past few weeks, as far as, the past few Wednesdays, looking at some of these trades. And, this is the harder part of doing these pods, is we've threw out frameworks of a lot of these deals already. But I'm going to throw out some players. We did this week 1 with the Wemby pick of like, hey, how many players would you trade the first overall pick for? And so I have some players that I think would be it's not out of the realm of possibilities that I could see the team being interested in trading, depending on how some things shake out. And you tell me, let's just say, for the sake of it, Scoot or Brandon Miller, either one of them's there at 3. You have the 3rd pick. You tell me if you would trade the 3rd pick for this player. Karl Anthony Towns.
No.
Ooh, for both.
For both what?
Like, Scoot Henderson is off the board.
Yeah.
For both Scoot and Brandon Miller. Like, you're sitting there, Scoot's off the board. You wouldn't trade Brandon Miller for Karl Anthony Towns.
No.
Okay.
I don't think I would.
Interesting. You think Mavs fans agree?
Yes. But if I say no, then I'll find the ones that don't, and I'll find the ones that do, whichever way I say. But yeah, I don't think we would.
I don't have any Karl Anthony Towns like stock. I did not invest into that stock, that property, and
you don't have any investments in that category.
Don't plan on it. Okay, here's another one.
Is it because you're wearing a bird hat that you're anti-cat?
We don't like cats.
There are no cats.
Portland calls up and says Damian Lillard. They want to hit the reset.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey, I'm out." Not really I'm out, but it's like I'm ready for this to be. Yeah.
Lillard. then you have Damian Lillard, Kyrie, and Luka.
I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of like realistic.
In a vacuum, yes, I would do that. In a vacuum, but with the Mavericks, you're like thinking about, okay, what does this mean?
Or it's you're looking around the league for like 3-team deals at that point.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's like, all right, Scoot or whoever goes to Portland. I mean, even Brandon Miller would be awesome in Portland with Simons and Shaedon Sharp and stuff. Here's one for you that I think could be like a legit phone call on draft night.
Get me in trouble.
Zach LaVine.
For the number 3 pick in the draft.
Do you think this would be more of a I think this would literally be a debate between Mavs fans?
Absolutely, because I immediately thought, okay, if I say no to this, is everything going to be pulled back up from when we didn't want Zach LaVine 4 years ago?
Yes, it would.
Before he was an all-star.
Yeah.
Man, to have Luka, Kyrie, and Zach. The problem with these, it's the same problem that we talked about a couple weeks ago, is if you get another like max level player, they have to solve some of your problems, because the offense is, you can figure out the offense with Luka and Kyrie. The defense is just so bad that you've got to bring in somebody else that fixes. That's why the Towns one I'm not thinking about. OG Anunoby and some other stuff I'm thinking about, right? Like that's why that's different to me. And they're not making $40 million. He's not making $40 million like Zach LaVine is, like Cat is, like Damian Lillard is. So that makes it just more complicated. It makes it so much harder to build a team around when you got 3 guys like that. Like look at the Nets from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I think
no, yeah.
I was about to say,
No,
yes,
I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it? Okay.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so.
A lot of the same reasons you're talking about.
For the Mavericks, no. If I'm another team, I don't even know, because Zach LaVine has injury history, and I don't know. I'd take Brandon Miller and figure it out.
Is there any of the three, and I'm throwing Scotty Barnes in this, three guys on the Toronto that you would not do it for? Pascal, Scotty Barnes, or OG Anunoby?
Well, Scotty Barnes, you do it for sure, right? Like,
do you?
Yeah, I would do that for sure.
Okay.
OG, you'd have to add some stuff, but I would do it. Siakam is better.
Scoot Henderson sitting there at 3.
He's not though.
Masai stands there, or Masai makes the call and says, "Hey, we'll give you Pascal Siakam for the 3rd pick."
It's so hard.
I know,
because it's the max, but then also he does fix some of their issues.
Yeah, I think he would be a great fit next to Luka and Kyrie. That's where it gets tricky.
Okay, the other thing about it is he's an expiring contract next year. So the Mavericks are then rolling the dice again with another player with the most valuable asset they've had besides Luka Doncic in decades.
Yeah.
In a top 3 pick.
Okay. Brooklyn calls. Straight up, Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges straight up
for the 3rd overall pick.
Yes, I will not only drive to the airport, I will drive a luxury RV to Brooklyn and pick him up and take him to whatever places and scenic sites he wants to see across the U.S. As we road trip back, and we can podcast about it if he wants.
I'm with you.
Absolutely would do that.
That one would be a before the draft thing. Dallas lands at 3 in the draft lottery. You know, a few weeks before the draft, Brooklyn and Dallas is talking about Mikal Bridges for number 3 overall pick swap.
Won't happen.
You think that's? See,
I don't think Brooklyn would do that.
But here's the deal with the whole like reports about OG and Mikal is cool. We heard all the reports about the turn down 3 and 4 first round picks and all that. All the 3 and 1st round picks, they're not Scoot Henderson probably. Like they're not like a top 3 pick in a draft. So like, would you like what means more? 4 picks in the 12 to 22, or 1 pick that's in a top 3? Potentially a guy who could be a star. So that's why I think OG Mikal, I don't think it's the same as saying they turned down 15.
Fair.
I would do it too. I
would do that for sure. He's making $21 million. Like that's the difference between like him and a Zach LaVine. Like, yes, maybe Zach LaVine's a more talented player, but like he's making half the money and he fills all the needs that the Mavericks have right now.
Yeah. Is there a trade with Orlando there? Orlando has 6 and 11. All the players we've talked about on the past 2 Wednesday pods. Is there a trade that Orlando's like, hey, we're determined. We want to move up and get one of those guys. We want to consolidate a little bit.
I don't think they're doing Franz Wagner.
I know, that's the thing. It's like I don't think they're doing Franz. They're definitely not doing Paolo. So it's like,
so then you're trying to push together like.
It's that deal we've been talking about the past 2 Wednesdays. Markel, Wendell, 6 and 11 for
Markel, Wendell, Chumel. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Are we swapping picks then?
Yeah. Well, it's like 6 and 11, Markel, Wendell Carter.
Oh, if you get 6 and 11, yeah, I think I'm doing that.
For 3.
If we're just swapping, or if I'm giving them the pick, then no. But if we're getting those other 2 first round picks, then yeah, take the other stabs. Like you got to fill multiple roster holes.
Well, you do have Kyrie. No, just okay. Bad joke, guys.
It's great. It's great, dude.
So let me give you one more, and then coming up after break, I'll give you an actual like some other real players. Well,
I'm ready.
Veteran players. Is there same vibe as Orlando? Is there any combination of San Antonio players? Let's say San Antonio gets the number 1 overall pick and they want Wemby, but they also say, hey, we want to get Scoot also, or we want to get Brandon Miller. And they call you up at 3 and say, what would it take to just get your pick? Any combination of players we have and like 1 future first. Would Keldon
future first from the Spurs?
Yeah, would Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and a future unprotected first? Would you do that for the number 3 overall pick?
Especially an unprotected first from the Spurs.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in that.
I
Vassell
think
adds
I
some
would
shooting.
too.
Keldon Johnson adds a big wing. It's young and under contract for a while with a descending deal. If
I
it's
think I
number
would
3,
too.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about number 2, but number 3, yeah.
I think I would too.
Future
Anyway.
unprotected first. I'm there.
After the break, I got a legit trade involving Scary Terry, baby.
Talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show. We appreciate you being with us. Again, tomorrow's show, we'll talk about wing targets for the Mavericks and trades and free agency. Today, though, we're talking about what if the Mavs got the number 3 pick. We talked about if they keep it, Brandon Miller's probably the guy there. What if they trade it? Give me some more trades you got.
All right, so Charlotte right now is sitting at 4. Let's say it shakes out that way. Charlotte's at 4. Dallas is at 3. For most people, this is a 3-person draft with Wemby in that top spot, tier alone. And then some people have Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson. I think Raphael does. Yeah.
Raphael Barlow had him recently in a mock. He just put Scoot ahead of Brandon Miller, but I think in like a big board, I think he has Brandon Miller above Scoot.
I think
they're close.
I could be wrong, but I think the Ringer draft guide has Brandon Miller over Scoot. But let's say this. Let's say Charlotte's sitting there and they're saying, we want in the top 3. We didn't get any luck on lottery night, but we want in the top 3. And they call you up and say, all right, what's the price to move up 1 spot? You guys move back to 4. We want to move up, 1 spot to 3. And they put this on the table. Terry Rozier, Mark Williams, and 4.
Isaac Harris answers the phone, says, you know what? What'd you say? Terry Rozier? Okay, we're hanging up the phone and we're accepting.
Like, yes, before I even hear the rest of it. Terry Rozier, Mark Williams, and 4 for Reggie Bullock, Bertans, and 3.
Can I make it somebody other than Reggie?
No, because he's an expiring contract. So the appealing for Charlotte is 1, moving to the top 3. That's obviously the thing to get Brandon Miller or Scoot. 2, you're getting off the long-term contract of Terry Rozier with, basically the expirings of Reggie.
Can I swap Tim?
No, because that's not doing. Like if you're Charlotte at that point, like the appealing part for Charlotte in this is to get off the long-term contract of Rozier.
They're the ones moving up. They got to send the Mavs stuff.
But they're also sending Mark Williams.
It's true. Mark Williams would be really good.
Yeah. So if you're Dallas, you would be giving up, let's say, Brandon Miller. But you would be getting one of the Thompson brothers, Terry Rozier, and Mark Williams.
Yeah, think about that. If you get Mark Williams, because then that is the answer at center. He's young, so it might be rough starting out, but and if he figures it out, that's a good center to have.
You have to really figure out your perimeter defense for sure.
Yeah, it's very bad then.
Because, at that point you still have Tim Hardaway and Terry Rozier. Spider-Man meme-ish coming off the bench.
Yeah, that's bad. That's why I would rather keep Bullock and send Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway's contract is not bad. So I think that they may consider that good if he's signed for more than 1 year, so he doesn't just leave.
So that one was interesting for me when thinking about it that way. And I tried to think about like Houston. We could have the whole Houston conversation again of like what other teams could land at 4 and say and do the similar type thing as Charlotte and say, hey, we really want Brandon Miller. We really want Scoot. What would it take to move up 1 spot?
Yeah.
And for Houston, would Dallas move back 1 spot? Would they give up Brandon Miller? Would the difference between Brandon Miller and a Thompson brother be Şengün?
Wow. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that'd be, I would do that 100%. I don't know what your team's looking like, but defensively, but you're the best offense in NBA history if it's Şengün, Luka, and Kyrie.
Yeah, I mean, they're not doing that with Jabari. They're probably not doing that with Jalen Green. Although it would be pretty wild though. Scoot was sitting there at 3 and Houston called and said, hey, Jalen Green and 4 to move up for 3.
Just hurting my brain here.
Because then they're pairing, Scoot with Jabari and all that.
Yeah.
Brighter future. Scoot Henderson, Jalen Green.
Scoot
We're all in
Henderson.
agreement. It's Scoot Henderson, right? All right. All right. I think that's about it. I mean, there's some similar like Indiana stuff, like Ben Mathurin, their pick to move up to 3. We agreed on the Wemby pod. That's like, yeah, that's not enough to move up for Wemby, but would it be enough to move up for Brandon Miller if Indiana was like, hey, Ben Mathurin in 6 for salary in 3?
No, but Miles Turner in 6.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. If you're the Mavericks, you have number 3. What are you doing with it? Let's just give our answer to this.
I mean, I think you're entertaining trade offers, that night. Like if it's draft lottery night and you get the 3rd overall pick, the first thing you're doing is, the first thing Nico Harrison is saying that he can't say fast enough, it just gives us some flexibility. Yeah, some flexibility.
We just have options. We have options.
Yeah.
Right? Like
flexibility, what we want to do this offseason. And he's right. It gives them a ton of flexibility because there's immediately going to be teams across the league calling to gauge the price for that, both to, a player, like kind of the lanes that we went down. Hey, what player would it take to get that pick just outright? What teams behind you would give up some players? I think we're both in agreement that I think everybody else would, that Dallas needs multiple pieces. It would take a very special player. That's why when you have the whole conversation that we've had a lot of times about, hey, if you're going to bring in another $35 million guy to form a big 3 that you're going to pay $120 million combined dollars for Luka, Kyrie, and, let's just say Zach LaVine. It's like, all right, you can't really fill any of the other holes. And now you're just adding another scoring wing alongside Luka and Kyrie at that point. Do you have enough to add rebounding, interior defense, perimeter defense, all that stuff? So I think that's one of the routes that Dallas get entertained at the 3rd spot, is looking at teams right behind them, still getting a pick, maybe even getting a couple picks to add a couple young guys, but also getting pieces like the Terry Rozier, Mark Williams of the world, a Şengün, whoever it is in some of these other teams.
This will be a pod in the future.
Oh, they're talking.
But I just did a tankathon sim.
Ooh.
Dallas got 4, and then like Detroit got 5, Charlotte got 7.
Wow.
Because Utah moved all the way up to 1, and the Mavericks moved up in this. And so in that scenario, yeah, and San Antonio was 6. So you're looking at Detroit, San Antonio, and Charlotte that want to come out of that night with something better than 6, 7, or like 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
So then you're like, all right, well, will one of those teams be convinced to trade up? Because
you got to look at the tiers. Now somebody always rises, right? Like, Brandon Miller's there. He hasn't always been there for a lot of people. He had a great season, this past year. But like, what if in some of these pre-draft workouts and stuff, one of the Thompson twins moves up into that, and they're kind of viewed on the same level or something like that. Right now, it feels like there's a little tier of Wemby, then Scoot and Brandon Miller, then the twins, then other guys after that. But you never know how it's going to shake out. I'm sure you can listen to Raphael talk about it.
NBA Big Board. Listen to NBA Big Board. And had Raphael on the show a couple weeks ago, so you could go check out that episode for some introductions to some of these guys. And we will be back tomorrow talking about wing targets for the Dallas Mavericks in trades and free agency. And so come back and listen to us. We're 5 days a week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.